Yo, what's good, guys? Oh, 30 minutes in the sauna. Ran up some abs, forearms, neck. Beautiful, 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 as always. You know, it's the weekend, so obviously I'm running up my two meals, shifting from the 3 to the 2. And actually, I'm experimenting, right? So I'm going to touch on that in a second, but I'm experimenting with this new sort of framework that I've created. You know, if you saw my last video where I talked about metabolism and hormones and how those are essentially what the biggest levers to pull if you're trying to obtain muscle growth and fat loss within, like resistance training. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm not training solely for that, but of course it's a huge part, right? It's a huge part for sure. But so I'm experimenting with this thing where on the weekends I train at maintenance volume. Right? I'm training at maintenance volume, so I basically did like one set. I'm still training hard, intensely, right? I'm not sacrificing that, but I just essentially just decided to do one set, and usually I do like multiple sets, of course, for every muscle group. But we dropped it down, and I'm gonna see how it is in terms of gearing these days more towards fat loss rather than muscle growth, because that's the idea I'm trying to get at. Is if I can periodize and alternate between days where I'm optimizing, I guess, for muscle growth and the days where I'm optimizing for fat loss, it's like I could be able to achieve both of those things, but at the end of the day, it's an experiment. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about, where honestly, and this is a physical 2.0 video, and it's been a minute since I made one, I'm not gonna lie, so I think this will be a good one. But you should actively almost view yourself as a living experiment, right? That is one of my tenets within 2.0, the tenets of 2.0. One of the aspects of my standard within the physical realm is that you need to live as if you are an experiment, because that's essentially what life is. You are your own scientist, right? You are the scientist of your life, and it's all about tinkering and experimenting with just as many things as possible in order to find what works for you. You see, I'm going to use this example of fitness and health, of course, because it just makes, I don't know why, but analogies within fitness and health, it always makes sense. It always clicks, right? It's just so easy to conceptualize and think about. But anyway, when you think about experiments like exercise science, right? That's what I'm studying in college, actually. When you think about like experiments that are based on like hypertrophy and like muscle growth and like things like this, people don't realize that these are experiments where you're taking all of these, all the people that participate in it, within these things, and do you know how much different they are from you? Or do you know how much diversity and variability there is within these experiments, where it's like, sure, they could be testing like, does this exercise grow the muscle the best? They could be doing that, but it's like people don't realize every single person has different genetics for building muscle, different insertions, right? Different experience within the gym, different diets, different hormonal profiles. Bro, the list goes on and on and on, right? So it's like, if you try to base your training and, things like these on like experiments where they're taking all of these people that are completely different from you, it's like, what are you doing, right? What are you doing? Even if there's genuinely like some outcome that's reached where it's like, it's consistent across all of these people, it's like, it doesn't mean it should apply to you. If anything, more often than not, bro, let's be real, if you're watching content like this, it's like you're not like the average person. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? I surely don't think I'm like the average person, but you shouldn't submit yourself to that, because you are essentially calling yourself like the average person. Because truthfully, all those people that engage in those experiments and whatnot, it's like, as much as it sucks to say, it's like they're all living average lives in terms of, especially relative to, exercise science, probably their fitness, they're probably not in like amazing shape. Like more often than not, they're like untrained individuals. That's literally, I'm pretty sure that is a thing where they really just target people that have no experience training, and then they conduct these experiments. All the, what all the science-based people like to base their philosophy off of. It's like, dude, you're comparing yourself to somebody who doesn't even lift, and you're gonna run with that. It's like, come on, right? But of course, this extends, just beyond fitness and health, and that when you see people that, certain things work for them, it doesn't mean, the worst thing you can do is just take it at face value and be like, oh, if it works for them, it must work for me. Because you are your own person, you are your own experiment. You have to constantly search and tinker for what works for you. And the thing is that, of course, sometimes certain things are going to align. If you see somebody else, right? Honestly, if you're watching my content and it's like you're hearing my opinions and my perspectives on things, you need to almost like experiment within yourself, like, oh, does this align with what I believe? Is this something that aligns with my own personal values and ideals? And you have to, play around with that thought. You have to experiment and, of course, go apply it within your own life and see, like, okay, this didn't work or it did. That's really how you properly externalize your power, diving into, the spiritual aspect, right? Of course, always internalizing your power, but I do believe, externalizing your power is important in that when you see other people and you can obtain insights from them and then experiment with it on your own and apply it, and if it works, like, dude, that is the best way to externalize your power right there. Absolutely beautiful. It's what I do oftentimes when I'm trying to watch content. I really, ensure that I'm not just watching it mindlessly, but I'm thinking, like, does this align with who I want to become and, my own values and ideals? And it's like, if it does, I go and experiment with it, and, if it works, it doesn't, and then, I scrap it. But if it works, it's like, wow, right? That's something I can add to my standard, and really, man, becoming, like, just viewing yourself as this experiment where you're just constantly trying to search for what works. It makes, operating within the physical realm so much fun, because it's like, it's just a constant game of like, oh, I'm going to go down this route and see if it works. And if it doesn't, it's like, oh, I can go down this route and this route. And of course, it doesn't mean, you jump from thing to thing to thing, but it's obviously, of course, you want to be intentional about it. And that's really what I'm trying to get at within just viewing your life as an experiment. Where obviously for me, I explained how, I'm currently experimenting with, this approach that I'm taking towards, achieving muscle growth and fat loss simultaneously, right? It's like, this is a fun experiment, right? It's like, you think about school and you had to do like these lame science experiments, just mix some things in a bottle and then, a reaction occurs. But it's like, bro, you can literally just conduct your own experiments in terms of, within fitness. It's like, oh, maybe I'm gonna try this style of training, oh, maybe I'm gonna try this diet, maybe I'm gonna eat this food, like maybe I'm gonna try fasting. Like, dude, there's just infinite things to tinker with, man, and it makes the process so fun. And when you can extrapolate that and apply it to all these areas of life that you're passionate about, that you care to progress and grow in, it just makes taking action effortless, bro. Right? Action is the most important thing within the physical. Right? Obviously, it's, mental, physical, spiritual, thoughts, actions, beliefs. Right? And when you can view your life as this experiment, right? You are the scientist within your own life. Right? The only, outcomes worth something to you should just be your own, right? The experiments that you conduct on yourself. You shouldn't ever look at what somebody, these meta-analyses of, oh, like, this study showed that, 30 studies combined show that, you should take rest day. You should take 3 rest days to grow the most muscle. Dude, I would, even if that happened, even if like a study like that came out, I would never like see that and just be like, oh my gosh, I have to take 3 rest days. By the way, I don't take any rest days. I take 0 rest days within the week. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every time, because I record these videos daily, and more often than not, I'm recording them after a workout, right? I don't take rest days because that is just what I found works for me. I've experimented with, running certain splits, having rest days, and I just came upon this because it's what I just feel the most alive in, right? It's all about how you feel, taking it into the spiritual, man, because it's all, the physical is all a reflection of just the mental and the spiritual at the end of the day, right? It's all a reflection, and this is just my approach that just, uplifts my soul. It fulfills me to just be able to go in and train every day. Maybe it's not optimal, so what, right? If anything, I feel like I can make it optimal. You know what I'm saying? Just the fact that I believe it works for me, that is enough for it to be optimal in my case. But of course, maybe for you it's not. Maybe you can't work out every single day. Maybe you can't work out fasted, right? Maybe you can't, have days where you just eat 2 meals a day. It's all about experimenting and tinkering to find out what works for you, man. Right? I'm just gonna keep saying it, bro. Be your own scientist, right? Don't go to all these other scientists and experts because they don't know your body. They don't know your thoughts. They don't know your beliefs, right? You are an N of 1, right? You are the only person that is you. So the only experiments that matter are the ones you conduct on yourself, man. But hey, if you guys got value from that, honestly, bro, that was, this has been something that has just stood out to me so much within my life, and that I'm always just trying to tinker and experiment with things. And it truly makes life not only just so enjoyable, but it just reinforces that you're living life on your own terms. And the thing about experiments is that of course not all experiments work. It's like you do an experiment on yourself and it's like, oh, this didn't work. But it's just the fact that you just keep getting the opportunity to tinker and experiment. Because think about it, the biggest discoveries in history, how were they done? Through experimentation, right? You think about Albert Einstein, all these great scientists and whatnot, they just experimented with what they intuitively believed. They didn't they didn't have studies and meta-analyses to rely on back then, right? They just had intuition. They just had their own thoughts, and they sat with those, and then once they get them, they just experiment. It's that simple, man. But hey, hope y'all got value from that. Like I said, any feedback appreciated as always. Drop a like, sub if you mess with the content, man. You mess with these talks. I'm trying to take 2.0 to the moon. I'm really trying to take it to the moon, man. And of course, starts on the physical, but we never neglect the mental and the spiritual, man. But hey, see y'all.